and welcome, brothers and sisters of the multiverse. This is the part 2 of my post NDE video, because there is much more to say. If you didn't watch it, please just pause here and I'll put the link here. Open another tab, watch it and come back. Words are just not enough, but I'll try. I mentioned many things just superficially. And I hope this one will make it clearer what changes in your life. Irrevocably. How one sees life. Well, if one doesn't fall for one's own limited ego's interpretation of what they experienced. There's no going back in so many ways. All the stories that we were told, all that stuff that we should find important and meaningful, just don't add up anymore. Career, status, money, power, or the illusion of immediate short-term conditioned kind of power, yes, but none of this is lasting and meta. And once you experience the truth of what is and what you are, you know there's just no point in lying to yourself. There's so many ways that people, it's a harsh word, but betray themselves to gain something short term. Or maybe it turns out longer term, but nothing is internal. Nothing, no so-called achievement here has much meaning in the infinite. So much value systems just fall apart. All that we're told that is worth it to follow, to grind upon, to invest time, the merciless, never to brought back time. Kronos is the most psychopathic of all of them. That what you perceive as time, every second is unique and precious. And wasting third of your life or more in service of a corporation that serves only the top few is more than absurd. If we have healthy sleeping habits, or what is called that, we spend a third of our life already unconscious. That's absurd enough. But those puny, fragile bodies need it to sustain the soul. And it's okay. And all that ingestion of substances, sustenance, to digest and let out then again is also part of the maintenance. Yes, but those sensory information, those neurons that then fire up through the taste and smell perceptors and start that chemical process in your brain that tells you, it's just part of the software. It interacts with the hardware, but it's not the user. It's the PC. Most people, even when they talk about enlightenment and such, they just grown out of hardware into software. It's one level higher, but they still don't recognize the user, the one who isn't any of that. We're here to experience that, to immerse ourselves in that avatar, but we are not that. I'll bring an extreme example, and that might offend some of you, or I hope you don't take it the wrong way. But all these blood is thicker than water. It's true, but it's most out of familiarity. Not blood or DNA itself. And we incarnate and we choose, or for some bodies are chosen, to experience a certain life, to learn certain things. But all families, most families, 99.99 maybe percent, are not soul families, are not the highest form of connection. That's why there is so much friction. And even DNA and the upbringing in the same nation, culture, and religions, and all of that don't unify those communities called families into one harmonious, peaceful, coherent one. It's just we can, and many of us, I think, know that feeling. We say we vibe. We can meet someone for the first time and talk for 15 minutes and feel that connection, that we are with that soul on a same frequency somewhere. That is not coincidental, that is the true story. Because you may be up there in the real, your worlds can be closer than your world and that of your single family members who are all dispersed in all these different levels of development, let's say, in certain areas. Some are always ahead, let's say, in some areas, have experienced more of that, learned more from that area, some in others, and that's why everyone can learn something from everyone, almost. But we are caught in that superficial, my political party, your political party, my color of spacesuit called skin, and all of the BS. Or my idea of an ideal society versus your idea of it. It's all accumulated experiences expressed through, well, worldviews and paradigms. Not necessarily only in that life, but in all the previous lives too. That's why we can't explain sometimes why, even if we never had certain challenges in this life to push us towards certain realizations of how that is to be in that situation or that one or whatever we call it, and it expresses itself through empathy, sure, but that is also an expression of the experience from previous lives. That's the unmeasurable part, right? Not rationally explainable. We glance over it and tell ourselves a simpler story. So, if you went back and back here again, and with the understanding of the persisting superficiality of understandings of life and this world, there's no going back, and there is no self-help book or some motivational video or something that covers it even to 10%. One can make arguments, like 7 arguments to a single well-sounding sentence of that. And asking the right questions is more important than getting good sounding answers. Self-discovery is something different than how should I say? So many things that are sold to us, and that's also key. Most of this stuff is sold and is made to be sold, not to be true. Not even on a superficial level. They always look to bypass your critical thinking and such, appeal to your ego. And ego disguises itself sometimes like spirituality or something. It disconnects from the illusion, dissolves the ego on a different level. It's still there, and it's biological. You can't escape it in this form, but being aware of how it operates, how it tries to win control, is already a big step. Along that step is where most people not only aren't but can't be. They never had that clarity, that oversight, or that see-through glasses. And of course, then they can't even imagine that there is more. There's a deeper and broader and clearer understanding of things. And that, of course, isolates people. You're then truly alone. I bet most of us, even if you know 1,000 people, only 1 in 10,000 maybe, went through this and came back with that level of understanding. So naturally, it is very unlikely that even 1 out of 1,000 people that we know would even partially understand this. You see it when you subtly question even a single superficial status quo or a belief system or value system and such. There's true loneliness in this, and this is not to sound superior, God forbid, just a happenstance. It sounds like a curse, it feels like a curse, and it is mostly a curse in this world. Or it feels like that because of all the other systems the others operate on and agree upon and have their social contracts on. The unwritten rules and such. But meta, it helps a lot. It's a cheat code. The authenticity, the integrity, the knowing of true good and evil, not what some books tell us or other people or the people who wrote those books. They're just people. And they haven't been through that. They may have had some epiphanies. Or, like in ancient times, went to a cave where those gases are released and they have visions and such, and tried to interpret what they saw and experienced and felt or anything in a certain way that was limited by their momentarily cultural beliefs, stuck in a single and limited by experience of a certain century and all of that. When we read about those stories, this is what we should have in mind and take it with a grain of salt and maybe try to reinterpret it into modern times or even future times, which we write every day. Every single one of us is responsible for that, how the future will unfold. For now, it's only potential. But it also is dependent on those social contracts. The common paradigms, the traps of propagandas and brainwashing and indoctrination techniques and all of that. That's why so many people opt out and go live in the woods alone. Just say goodbye to civilization. It's a combination of, it's not only avoidance or weakness, but it's also not strength and clarity. That's also kind of a egoistic bypass of that responsibility towards the rest of humanity. The giving up on, right? They can't be helped. At least there I have my peace of mind and such. And I understand that. Oh, I do. But I don't think that's what we are here for. To be egocentric and hedonistic and but we're also limited through our central nervous system, and it gets easily overloaded with all kinds of BS. So what do? How do we manage that? We, of all people, think no better than most how sticking out of the crowd can get you nailed down or moaned away. Because that's dangerous to the system, to the egos, to the possibilities of cognitive dissonances of people and such. And I understand it too. It's painful. Truth is painful. We know that at the latest, since first time discovering that Santa Claus is not real. And it's a subtle trauma, but it's a persistent trauma, even in adulthood, throughout our lives. For kids, a world crumbles, and it initiates that latent fear of that. They never want to experience that again. So they train their brains to dismiss the possibilities of that happening again. But instead of it's directly encouraging one to defend the lie and the illusion. Every means necessary, and to any cost, and to any long-term cost, and to any eternal cost for the soul itself. The trajectory which they choose for their lives, for their incarnation cycle, and the next ones, because, as I just said, every day we contribute to the unfolding of a certain future for this planet. That's a responsibility that very few people are really as aware of. They think just because they put something in a trash can and it gets taken away, it disappears. They don't think about it, where that lands. And ironically, often it lands in their own brains. We have like a teaspoon of plastics in it, right? I mean, it's so absurd. How easy seems for most of them to remain in their little worlds, in their little bubbles, in their belief systems, and operate in that. Anything that tries to burst it, they, instead of taking a step back, pause and reflect, and evaluate it objectively, they even use all the psychological tricks to trick themselves to disregard it in a way that seems rational. And it pretty well works. I mean, I'm not sure if most are unable or just unwilling to get out of their comfort zones. And to grow up a little. Or maybe they're not at that stage, on their soul development stage, let's say. And we just have to accept it and let them progress in their own pace. That would be, or that sounds at least, like meta empathy. Right? Many of those gurus and such that are, or seem legit with certain understandings, do that. But that could also lead to spiritual and emotional bypassing and detachment from this world. And that's again then something we are not here for. We are here, trapped in those bodies to experience a lifetime of being human and to feel and to smell and touch and taste and all of it. See and hear as a human. It's not easy. I'm not here to tell you any answers. beware of those who claim to. I'll try at least to avoid definite conclusions and to give it a short dopamine boost of now you know, now you progressed somewhere. But I hope it still helps you at least deal with some nuances. I'm not even saying be stoic about it. It can also be bypass. There's so many versions of bypasses. Spiritual, mental, emotional, psychological, all kinds of. So many variations of each. None of us are completely immune to some of those traps. And of course, since there is an unconscious, you can't fix something if you're not conscious that it is that. And if you believe that psychologists themselves are unbiased and such, personally, and that it doesn't affect them, okay, they're trained to suppress that and stay as objective as possible and all of that, but we're all just O2 to CO2 converters here. We're all human. And I will go, as I did already mentioned a few times, a few videos, about the social and monetary systems and social contracts and all of how the world works, but also that it's in our hand and in our responsibility. Pushing some ideas without thinking them through and where it could lead and how it can be hijacked and all of that. Just rushing into a good sounding cause. We should at least try to stop that. I'm talking metacognition. Talking Benjamin Bloom's hierarchy and Ken Wilber's theater thinkers and just sorry if I'm talking too slow again. I skipped like 3 or 4 sentences. And I wanted to say, but try still to find joy in life. And maybe it's not wrong to say that. There is such a thing. We can make it. We can find it or create it. And it would feel better. if it would outweigh the pain and suffering and all, but not paint the one as good and the other as bad. It's all part of the same. It all has pros and cons, and we need, the one can, and we see it, with all the toxic positivity, right? But there is also toxic despair on the other hand. Nihilism and all of that. We can see the bad in the good without devaluing the true good, and we can see the good in the bad without valuing the bad. It's all just about the right perspective, the right balance. And I mentioned listen to your heart and everything, and yes, but also be aware of not to fall naively into some wishful thinkings and all of that. Everything has its traps and pitfalls and risks and chances, and we can find both in both. Gratitude and humbleness in the darkest days, and the emptiness and the superficiality in the best of days. It's like your true self is in this little ball in the middle, and 360 by 360 by 360, right? There are doors, and every door leads to 5 more doors. And so it branches in every direction. Every thought and feeling and fear and hope and possibilities and nuances, directions, but it all, at least indirectly, connects to all the other. Sometimes, you mentioned that also a few times, those second and third and fourth and fifth and 10th layer of order effects. I just love this scene from the Good Will Hunting, when it talks about why he shouldn't join the CIA or NSA or what was it. It's that level of thinking that brings exponentially more insight and awareness of the possibilities and consequences. Not just for yourself, not just for your family, humanity as a whole. It's a responsibility. And if you see that responsibility as a burden, well, maybe you're not ready for adulthood. Responsibility is neutral. It's also how you accept it and how you deal with it and how you inescapably manage your life around it. It's why you don't join certain clubs that would give you the short term, and I mean lifelong, but this is just a day trip for the soul, this life of 8 years or so. You don't join clubs that can help your career because they have connections in high places and such. I had that opportunity. I was invited. I declined. I mean, it's still short-term thinking. For a long-term pay. That I'm not ready to do. Why would you go one step forward and 5 steps back? Why would anyone do that with that level of awareness? This doesn't make sense. Like when you're in a 3-hour long tennis match, in that nanosecond, when for the players the time seems to stop, they know they could get that ball, but they know exactly the physics how they would probably fall and injure themselves and be at a disadvantage for the rest of the game, for the rest of the match. So they let that ball pass. They lose 1 point, but they're in the better position for the rest of the match and not injured. That's how you win the long-term game. Not one life, not one career, not one status, not one title, not one opportunity of the short-term illusion of power, because you have to compensate for the feeling of powerlessness. It's mostly what it is. All that shine with a certain over the top, whatever it is, they mostly compensate for the opposite. Don't fall for that shiny picture. And money from a certain point onwards doesn't make anyone's life better. It makes them even more miserable. They have more to worry about and they have more to lose. Yeah, such. It's ridiculous. How many people are pursuing some ultimate goal that they think they would be happy when they reach it, and then we're there, the happiness lasts a few days or maybe even a few minutes, and then they already start to ask themselves, and what now? They realize it was not that. And why waste or even risk your life, your one incarnation cycle, your 30 or 40 years at some pursuit that might not be it? Instead of taking a few hours without your phone, internet, or any other distractions, and sit and think about if it is what you truly want. No, what you truly want. No, what you truly want. What your soul wants, not your ego, not your emotions, not your programmed belief systems, not any of that. You, the true you. Since that NDE experience, I spent now almost 3 decades thinking about what that is. And mostly we already know it. And that is something no one can buy with money or power. No one can calm that storm in their souls, that uneasiness, that restlessness, that panic you see in their eyes behind their bulletproof smiles. Don't fall for that shiny picture. Take your time. Get to know the real you behind all of that, and pursue that. It's never wrong to be the true you. You are not wrong. Unless you're a psychopathic serial killer or something. I mean, most of us good, just misguided or ignorant, or I mean, all of us are sometimes in some areas and such. Again, we're just humans, but there is a better way to a truer self, and to that inner peace. And it really doesn't take much, and we really don't need much to be happy, or at least content. I like to watch sometimes interviews with people all around the world in objectively poor conditions, but they have more peace within themselves. They have more gratitude. They're humble, mostly. They have that. They have something that you can't buy. Of course, it's hard. It's a struggle, all of that, and it shouldn't be. The monetary system, right? And what I mentioned, people who just came somewhere and said, this land, my land, because I managed to fool those cannon fodders to protect me because I have certain title and such. And then no one speaks against it, so I'm right, it's mine. So I will sell that land to you, which was there millions of years before me and will be millions of years after me. But I mean, we are forced into this system from which there is no escape on this planet. The monetary system, the national borders, and all of that contracts that say you have to pay for something that is usually free, that nature gives us in abundance. And filters water through the soil and the evaporation and the clouds and the rain, and it sustained us for millions of years. I mean, all the creatures even before us, and we treat it like shit. Water is abundant. This is a water, not an earth. It's 2/3 water, right? This planet. So the soil, the sun, that's all. That's all we need. All we ever needed and all that we ever need. But when people fall into those manufactured wants and interpret it as needs, then we have a problem. Then we have capitalism, then we have all of that BS. Where only a handful wins at the cost of the rest. That model is long outdated. But we can't, again, force change. We can try to nudge it gently, kindly, with understanding, even with love, and not judge them too harshly, because we were there also. We were all there. It's some point, at some incarnation cycle. These are all our brothers and sisters. And we should treat each other as such, and not fight over different opinions, which are mostly both false, because they're too simplistic, too short-sighted. What do you think? I really like to know. Let me know in the comments. Love you, brothers and sisters.